Normally when you want to install MS-DOS to a hard disk, you'll use a set of floppy disks and a neat looking setup program, but the absolute minimum effort actually required to install DOS is to partition and format the hard disk using the /s option to copy the system files. That's literally it. Once you boot into it, you have a complete operating system ready to play King's Quest. You can execute some commands internal to the command interpreter such as dir, echo, and type. You can also access standard floppy disks and other hard disk partitions out of the box. If I wanted to install some essential utilities straight away, I could copy everything from this DOS boot floppy I got from allbootdisks.com into a new directory. Even without a text editor, I can write to a new or existing file. By redirecting standard output from echo to a file, I can overwrite the contents of it with a greater than symbol, or append to it with two greater than symbols. It's not intuitive in this usage, but can be useful with other programs using standard output. This doesn't feel like a complete DOS installation to me though. I want all of the other programs, so what I could do here is uncompress all the files here ending in underscores, but it can get tedious expanding all of them one by one, so I'm going to start over and actually install MS-DOS 6.22 to a VirtualBox machine using the standard procedure. I'll also install everything from the supplemental disk, cause who doesn't want QBasic gorillas on their hard disk? This installation will be used for creating our very own DOS install CD. After powering off the machine, I can open the virtual hard disk image in 7-zip and get direct read-only access to the entire installation. I'll copy everything except command.com, io.sys, ms-dos.sys, and ms-dos6 to a new directory. A couple other goodies, CD-ROM.sys and ctmouse.exe, are also copied to the DOS directory within the directory being used to build the CD-ROM. These are used to load drivers for generic IDE CD-ROM drives in most common mice. You can include pretty much whatever software you want in the CD, either for automatic or manual installation. It'll really save you a ton of time too. The setup files for Windows for Workgroups 3.11 are distributed across 8 floppy disks that are really slow and demand manual swapping, but you can combine them into a single path so you can very quickly install this graphical user interface from a CD-ROM. The default configuration MS-DOS 6 supplies in a fresh installation is generally too minimal for even a 386DX. I recommend editing config.sys and autoexec.bat now so you have a good default configuration for every installation you conduct from your CD. Ideally, you'll want to load as many things as possible into upper or high memory. I also like to load DOSKey, which is a built-in utility that adds more functions to the command interpreter. To be able to install MS-DOS quickly with the configuration we want, we need to create a new batch script to be run on demand. I'll go with a very minimalistic single function installer here, but you might want something a bit more dynamic in your case. Let's break this down. First, we check to see if the user is in the same directory as the setup script. If not, we jump to the section error to print an error message and terminate the script, because a lot of this is dependent on relative path names. Otherwise, the user is prompted to confirm if they're ready to install MS-DOS. They can press any key to do so, or hold Ctrl and press C to abort the installation. The installation procedure consists of nothing more than copying files to the root and DOS directories of the primary partition. Setup.bat is deleted from the C drive as it is not needed there. Assuming we're using a DOS boot floppy of the matching version, which contains sys.com, the script switches to the A drive and executes sys to transfer the system files over to the primary partition. A message is printed stating the installation was completed, and the error message is skipped over. You can modify this so as to copy more directories for automatically installing more programs if desired, or add prompts to it for quickly installing different sound drivers depending on what your target machine has. Now it's time to build an ISO file. There's not much to it. All you need to be sure of is that the file uses the ISO 9660 level 1 standards so it can be used in DOS. If it's not, go to the Restrictions tab in the Advanced tab and change it. To bypass the need for a physical floppy disk on later systems, you can very easily make the CD-ROM bootable. Go to the Bootable Disk tab and make the image bootable. Set the emulation type to a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk and point to a good DOS boot floppy which includes a CD-ROM driver such as the one from allbootdisks.com. With all of the files from our template directory copied to the source box, we can now build the ISO file and use it to burn a CD with. A little tip here, if you have a 486 or Pentium machine with a BIOS version earlier than sometime in 1996, you might be able to update it to add support for CD-ROM booting if it's not there already. Upon booting the CD or a floppy disk, you can switch to the CD drive and run the setup script, assuming your hard disk has already been partitioned and formatted. After doing so, restart your system and remove the CD or readjust the system's boot device order. You now have a full installation of MS-DOS on your computer completed in just a few seconds. It's that simple. The minimalistic and versatile nature of DOS means you can install or run it in a greater variety of ways too. You can install DOS over the network, you can create a live CD, and you can even install MS-DOS 7.1 using some files from Windows 95 OSR2 so as to have a sort of pure DOS environment with FAT32 support. You choose your own destiny. Go wild.